Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big bubble pop! And you hooked up! Coffee in the big day.
It's Sunday night, and you know what that means. Fabcast Media certainly brings you the latest edition of Working the Marks, and I am New Jersey's premier journalist and the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, Fernando Uribe, and he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst and rabble-rouser and instigator, folks. The great PVR superstar Patrick Rivera joins us here tonight. What's going on, brother?
Second. How you doing, guys? My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. I'm doing pretty good, man. Happy Pride Month to you, Fernando. Great to see you.
It's just the month of June for me, you know. But...
Yeah, you bought anything good at Target lately? Drink any Bud Light, you know? You don't want to get anything with a dick pouch, huh? Come on, summertime's coming.
Pink. I'm just wearing pink because that's one of my favorite colors.
It's dick pouch season. Come on, man.
Well, it's a season for something, all right. I mean, some words I could use.
I heard you got a little heat, man. I heard you got a little heat.
Yeah, it seems like Robin.
You ain't gonna address that tomorrow on your show.
Yeah,
come on.
It seems like
you wouldn't dare. You wouldn't dare. Some people in some circles say you wouldn't dare address that.
It seems like bougie white people in Hoboken got a lot to say about me. So
hey, come on, man. Leave the whiteies alone. All right?
You know. So, but folks, check us out on all of our social media. Sharing is caring. Like us on Facebook, of course. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Shout out to our exceptional executive producer, Dee Rotten, who makes this show possible every single week via Fabcast Media, obviously. And folks, as I said, sharing is caring. It takes 2 seconds. Share it on all your social media platforms. Happy Father's Day to all of you out there, all the dads, like Patrick Rivera, for example.
Go fuck yourselves. It's a fucking Hallmark holiday, all right? You don't have to give me fucking credit for being a dad. I do it every day.
But shout out to all the dads, and I'll be celebrating Father's Day next week with my dad and uncle, as we'll be taking them to Yankee Stadium.
Let's go, baby.
As the Yankees, the abysmal Yankees.
The abysmal Yankees? Oh, okay.
Yeah, losing already 2 out of 3 this week.
It's a fucking marathon, pal. It's a marathon. It's a marathon, okay? We haven't even gotten to the All-Star break yet. You sound like a Mets fan.
No,
you sound like a Mets fan. Why? Because we didn't win the April championship? Is that what it is?
Because we're getting swept by the last place Red Sox.
Oh, my God. Oh,
let's see.
What will we ever do? Is Game 7 tomorrow? Are we going to get eliminated? Like, the fuck out of here, bro. Still plenty of baseball left to play.
But again, folks,
let's go Yankees.
But happy Father's Day to you all. And I got to tell you, man, great weekend for wrestling. Let's start off with, I think, ultimately the biggest story of the weekend, Friday night on SmackDown. Let me tell you. I mean, you want to really describe what exceptional storytelling is. We're talking about 3 years and counting of just the best script probably since Austin versus McMahon in the late 90s. And this bloodline, I mean, ultimately, I think, Pat, we saw the implosion and the destruction of the bloodline as we know it Friday night.
Yeah, man, it was excellent, man. Very, very, very well-produced segment. I think there's somewhere in like the 30 million range on views alone since then. I mean, I know we say it a lot on this program, and a lot of people think like, we're like full of shit maybe or whatever. People are entitled to their opinions, right? But I gotta say, man, this is the best wrestling storyline in the last fucking 25 years. I just don't think anything touches it, And you look at the NWO, yeah, it was great the way it started, but like there was no payoff. There was no fucking payoff with that. You know what I'm saying? Austin McMahon, after Rocky became corporate champion, it kind of dragged on a little bit. Then they had the thing where Austin turned, which I enjoyed his character work as a heel, got to be honest, as the comedic heel. But like even that kind of ran its course. This, I mean, look at how long we're going with this. And it just keeps getting better and keeps getting better and keeps getting better. The bloodline, this story, man, this angle has been the best storyline in the business in the last 25 years, and I'll take the fucking Pepsi challenge on that one.
And Patrick, what's funny is that part of me I guess because we become preconditioned to it in, let's say, other instances where almost part of me is like, yeah, you know what? If you brought in some other members, it wouldn't be the worst thing, but it runs the risk of becoming 1998 all over again
Yeah.
with NWO Red / Wolfpack against the NWO Hollywood Black and White, and you don't want that. You don't want. I mean, listen, I'd love to see Jacob Fatu in a WWE ring. Don't get me wrong, but bringing people in for the sake of like, oh, let's just keep this going. I think you can still keep it going with the 4 members of the Bloodline. But again, like, what's the payoff in the sense of the duration? I mean, do you want them feuding for the rest of the year? Like, I don't have an easy answer as to what would be the ideal cutoff as to like, okay, that's it. Let's put this to bed, put dirt on it, bury it, and let's move on. I don't know. I don't have an easy answer for that.
I just think that less is more. I mean, look at everything that they've done thus far with this angle. I mean, this is stuff that arguably you could have done in a couple of weeks of TV. You didn't really have to run this as long as you did, but you're riding the wave. You're riding the wave of merchandising. You're riding the wave of just like everything that's happened with this that's been just excellent. You look at every metric. I mean, it checks all the boxes 10 times over. It's been excellent, and it's been a really, really, really slow burn. And it gets better and better and better and better. I mean, this segment was excellent. Just the way Jay was cutting the promo, just the way Jay was just talking to Roman, the way he just turned around and threw that kick out of nowhere. I mean, it was just excellent. The delivery, the storytelling, everything about it, Heyman's facials, Paul's facials, the brothers, the 3 of them, like, it's just so, so good. And it just keeps getting better and better. And look, there's a lot of fans out there that are still saying that Cody could have won the title and this still would have been good. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous because Roman needs the title for this.
Yes.
Okay. And Cody going through his own journey, I think, is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to him and Dom one-on-one. I think that's going to be a friggin' awesome match. Yeah. I love the feud with Lesnar. They're kind of icing that a little bit. They'll get back to that probably, by SummerSlam. But I mean, this has been great stuff. Cody didn't need the fucking belt. Roman keeping these belts, Roman having 3 belts is fantastic. It adds to the story more. Now we're going to have this big tag match at Money in the Bank. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better, man.
No, absolutely. And obviously we'll see where it goes after Money in the Bank, whether or not that's like the final conclusion, or again, it almost kind of makes you wonder, like, how do you book that where, it almost seems like Solo Sikoa becomes like the easy guy to pin there. You don't want the Usos to sort of lose steam. Obviously, Roman getting pinned that's out of the question creatively. It'll be interesting. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a schmaz. If this extends to SummerSlam, where maybe some chicanery or something happens, and then maybe you have, I don't know, Helen. Well, that sounds a little hyperbolic, like a Hell in a Cell match to settle this. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think that.
Just to cut you off here a sec, from what's being reported, right? From what's been reported by Billy Body, and you can check him out on what's it called? Something betting. Fucking hell, I forgot his thing, his IG, and I think I got my gimmick here. Lockbetting.com. Billy Body. All right, that's the most reliable news source guy out there for wrestling. Billy Body's reported that the plan is to have the tag team match between the Usos and Solo and Roman at Money in the Bank, and then somewhere between then, Seth Rollins is going to get into it with Roman, get into it with the Bloodline, keep calling him out, keep talking smack. They're going to cost him his title. He's going to lose his title. To whom, more on that later, but he's going to end up losing his title, and then it's going to be him and Roman at SummerSlam. That's the plan so far. So we'll see what happens between now and then. Take it for what you will, folks, but Billy Body's a pretty reliable guy when it comes to this, and it seems to me like it makes a lot of sense, especially with Seth talking about, the part-time champions, the absentee champions, and stuff like that.
No, absolutely. Speaking of title belts, obviously this past Monday, we saw the unveiling of the new Women's World Championship. I guess, Pat, they're, dissolving the notion of champions being predicated on a brand, like the Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship. And I just thought it was really funny because I know we talked about this Monday night where, fans online and Marks, more on them later, but we're having some sort of meltdown because they looked at the title belt and said, wait a minute, like this is the same belt as Seth Rollins. I'm like, well, not really. The color of the leather strap is more vanilla-ish or a light beige. I don't work at Home Depot or Lowe's, and I don't work in the paint department, so it's hard for me to sort of really assess the color. It's a lighter version, of Seth's World Heavyweight Championship. It's going to sell. Obviously, it's not like people aren't going to buy the belts. It's weird, man, because obviously we're doing the draft again, and you want to make sure you kept people on their brands. I was sort of surprised that they didn't keep sort of the same premise of like, hey, there's a Raw Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion. But I guess, with sort of creating undisputed titles, that just seems like the easy segue. I was just kind of surprised, though.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. So Billy Body had also reported recently as a Patreon exclusive that part of the further reasoning for the new titles, it's far deeper than a reset / fresh start or wanting an active champion on house shows. According to the numerous marketing sources, a number of WWE partners have been underwhelmed by the superstars that have been offered to them by the company, especially since Roman Reigns unified the titles. The Sony Sports Network in India are one of the main companies who have been disgruntled by the availability of requested talent. With no Reigns, Lesnar, or Rousey frequently available, Sony have been particularly unhappy since Drew McIntyre dropped the WWE Championship. Sources are feeling like many of the other partners were spoiled by Drew's constant willingness to work 8 to 12-hour days, largely consisting of media. McIntyre was particularly popular with WWE's Indian media partners. Sources has likened the end of McIntyre's reign to when the company would swap out John Cena for other champions who didn't carry on Cena's workload, often resulting in Cena sharing a lot of the workload, often leading to him being restored as champion. So with Roman largely available, Mark Shapiro and Nick Khan decided to work with Triple H to implement a united strategy to elevate new stars for WWE's disgruntled partners. This included a widely available champion who they could sell as Reigns' equivalent. This also included losing the Raw and SmackDown women's title in order to simplify their status for a mainstream audience who often didn't understand the significance of Raw and SmackDown. WWE executives felt like being the champion of one single brand lessened the importance of the titles, as opposed to boxing, who have the WBC, WBA, WBO, and IBF belts, all of which, for the most part, are seen as equal. So just a little bit of background there for you folks on the reasoning behind it and a lot of the marketing element. And folks, it's not as clear cut and dry as like, hey, this guy deserves it. He's a really solid worker. He can cut a great promo. It's not just solely about that. It's about your availability to be that guy, to go and work 8 to 12-hour days, to go and work with Make-A-Wish, to go and work with the Special Olympics, a variety of different appearances that top guys have to make. And especially with the Indian partnership as well. India is a huge country, So, they need somebody that's going to be able to appeal to that mass audience, but more importantly, he's going to have a good attitude to do that work. John Cena obviously was that guy for a very long time. And folks, that's an exclusive that you get from lockbetting.com. You could check it out. Join the Patreon. Tons of great information there for those of you who want to be in the know. So yeah, definitely there's some background on there, Professor, as to what the thinking is behind, putting these new championships out there.
Yeah. No, and listen, India's a big market. It's a huge fandom that's in that country for years. That appreciates WWF/WWE traveling there, touring there, having shows. Didn't we see it? Didn't we talk about it on a previous episode, dude? Like that they were doing a show in India later this year. I could have swore I read that somewhere. Maybe not in a stadium, but I think in one of the arenas. I'm not sure, but again, they're going to sell merch. It's a country with a huge following. It's a country with over 1 billion people, and it's going to obviously, I think, generate revenues that they're going to do when they travel globally. Back to the point about the titles that Billy Body reported. Yeah, you're right. You want an equivalence to them. You want, it's almost like, think of it this way, man. If you remember the very, very first brand split in 2002. We're going on 21 years now, when they took the WWE title and put it on SmackDown, and then later that fall, as a matter of fact, yes, after Triple H won the undisputed titles at Mania against Jericho, then they combined the titles into that, what I would argue, probably the least favorite WWE title that I remember. If you remember that title, the least favorite one I can recall, that Lesnar beat The Rock for. And then in that fall, Bischoff, the gimmick general manager, unveiled the World Heavyweight title. And that was really the title for Raw, right? The World Tag Team Champions, as opposed to the WWE Tag Team Champions who are on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to me that I think now, after these brand splits have happened a few times already, and you're trying to, I guess, maybe differentiate the titles and have some distinction to them. I think marks get sometimes their panties in a bunch, but what else is new about like the wording? Because, for example, like what makes Asuka, and I'm reading wrestling Twitter over the week, and I was just like laughing. I'm like, and even when my classmates that were bitching and moaning about this, like, wait a minute, what makes Asuka the undisputed? She didn't beat anybody like to combine a title. Like Roman beat Lesnar to combine the titles. Asuka, I just thought it was funny about the semantics that people were engaging in about what the titles mean. At the end of the day, they're going to sell. If you go to www.shopzone.com, it's selling for, I think, $400, both the men and women's world heavyweight titles. And marks like that stuff, right? We go to shows. We have marks walking around with title belts, right? I mean, I know other than drinking his own piss, I can imagine something that infuriates Patrick Rivera more than marks walking around arenas with titles.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a part of the gimmick. It's a part of the shtick. And they're going to sell as many as they can, especially if it's a good-looking title. People getting upset about, oh, well, it's not undisputed. That's shit for the marks to talk about to still keep them interested in coming back to the product. So at the end of the day, for all this talk and all this stuff, it doesn't make sense. They're still tuning in. So who's really winning in the long run? It's the WWE. And they're the most talked about company. Let's face it. Even when AEW is doing good, people are still talking about WWE and what they don't like about it. So obviously, it is what it is. But yeah, man, I think it's smart. I think the marketing approach that they're trying to take, obviously what it is that TKO wants them to do, which is, the company that they merged with, that's the partner company along with UFC that now owns WWE. They obviously wanted them to do that. And again, they're different title belts. I mean, you could go back and you could buy the old women's title belts or the old, Universal Championship, the blue one, the red one. You can buy whichever one you want.
You can buy the Alundra Blaze women's title for all.
You can buy it all. You can buy it all. You could buy Big Gold. You could get it all. You know what I'm saying? You could even get the one that Eddie Guerrero had. The one that Brock Lesnar won. You could buy all of these championships, man.
And some people do, sadly and tragically.
It is what it is. But hey, man, look, at the end of the day, for as much as I don't like it personally, it keeps the business going. And that's what fucking matters. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to wear that fucking title when you go to a show, you better defend it. You better be willing to defend it, okay?
Yeah, and that's probably the most amount of athleticism a lot of these people will probably exhibit in a given week.
No, they're sex lives, man.
There you go.
No, come on, man.
I'll do some other news here. Interesting, though, Pat. I want to get your thoughts on this. Very interesting report on eWrestlingNews.com this past week on the latest edition of Busted Open Radio, which, by the way, folks, you can listen to on SiriusXM on channel 247. I listen to it because I enjoy David LaGreca, the real talent of the LaGreca family there, along with Bully Ray and Mark Henry.
That's debatable.
Well, you got a bum being the play-by-play guy for the New York Rangers. That's not really talent for me. But.
I mean, anything involving the New York Rangers is just bad.
I agree. But interesting, Pat, and you're a worker, and I think this could maybe not ruffle feathers with you, but I think two guys who've worked in the business and maybe not revealing industry secrets, but sort of putting this out there for consumption. So Mark Henry discussed a wide range of topics this week during Busted Open Radio. And one of the topics that everyone chimed in on was LA Knight. And the WWE Hall of Famer expressed his take that WWE should, quote, pour gasoline on the momentum that LA Knight has right now. Now, according to Mark Henry, this is what the transcript says. Quote, it sucks, man, that there have been times, and Bully can attest to this, that somebody gets over naturally and organically, and then they say, well, he's already getting over. Let's do something with somebody else rather than pile it on that guy. Pour the gasoline on the fire. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Say something. Will y'all do something with me, please? I'm busting my ass getting over. And of course, he goes on to say that LA Knights is as hot as anybody's been right now. But again, what some people are trying to deduce or sort of read between the lines is that, both Vince and maybe Paul to some extent are guilty of not pouring gasoline on people that they should over the years. And of course, Mark Henry's going to take the high road. He's not going to mention names. But, Pat, this is something that infuriates you, right? Because it's almost like they're giving access to backstage stuff to Marks, and this is what emboldens Marks. You see, Vince didn't push this guy, and or Paul isn't pushing this guy, and look, like they're over. Why aren't you pouring gasoline on them? And I get what Mark Henry's trying to do. I mean, it's content you're talking about on the radio show, but I'm not surprised if it's true that Mark Henry's. I mean, he did say this, but if it's true that this is what happens backstage, this is what makes Marks furious.
I mean, it doesn't take much to make Marks furious. And in regards to Mark Henry, that is, he's a Hall of Famer. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. He's earned that right. Obviously, he's going to have his opinion. Whether anybody likes it or not is fucking irrelevant. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. But as far as this goes, he's creating content, to your point. He's doing what he has to do to get that show views, get that show clicks. Obviously, he knows that he's playing to a Mark audience. He's in AEW. He understands that a lot of those fans listen to that program. And he's talking about a guy that they all like. Obviously, he's a guy that's very talented. He's very over right now. He attacked Rey Mysterio and they still cheered him. And like Rey's like, the most sympathetic like baby face probably ever. Yeah. He's certainly getting over in his own way, but he's a guy that's a little bit older. We don't know what his situation is. We don't know what he wants to do. We don't know what the conversations are backstage. But obviously, he's in good hands. He's there. He's in the WWE. He has a different gimmick now. He went back to his old gimmick. So, look, at the end of the day, man, I get that fans like their guys. They become emotionally attached to them and they want to see them advancing. They want to see them climb through the ranks, but take it easy, folks. Look at the bloodline. Look at this storyline. Look at any great storyline in the history of the business. It's all taken time to get to a payoff. Yeah. It's all taken time to get to, different steps in the process. LA Knight is certainly a guy that's recognized as a big talent because he wouldn't be there if he wasn't. And I would not be surprised if he either ends up winning a championship or maybe the briefcase, although I hear that they have somebody else in mind for that. So I just think that, just again, it's creating content, it's getting views, it's getting listens. Mark Henry's a really smart guy. He knows what he's doing.
Oh, no, totally. And again, I think what was really funny between the interaction and the exchanges, I think whether it was LaGreca or the other hosts or callers, I think they do take some calls. It was interesting because when they kind of repeatedly went back to that passage in the transcript where it's like, well, and Bill can attest to this, and then they say, and people were like, well, who's they? And there was sort of like this collective smile among the panel, like, well, we're not going to say it, but, I think they're working the gimmick. They don't want to just come out and say that because again, like as if Marks need another reason, right, to feed the conspiracy theory or to just dislike Vince McMahon. In this case now, Paul Levesque, right? Because Paul Levesque is
but what are the Marks gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, they're gonna get jacked up on conspiracy theories. Are they gonna storm the Capitol? Are they gonna go to freaking the capital of pro wrestling, Stamford, Connecticut? Are they gonna do that? Are they gonna break in there and stuff? Is somebody gonna eat a fish sandwich on Vince McMahon's desk? Nothing's gonna fucking happen. They're gonna complain. They're gonna talk about it. They're gonna keep the algorithm going. WWE's going to see that and they're going to go, oh, look at them. They're going nuts. They can't stop watching. They can't stop watching. And they're going to be so happy. They're going to be so happy. And it's going to keep going and they're going to do whatever the fuck they want anyway. So you know what? Huff and puff, Marks, but you ain't going to blow nobody's fucking house down. All right?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's funny where, like, again, these sort of podcasts with guys who are workers, guys who are Hall of Famers in the business, they're being smart. They're trying to arouse attention, right, and interest, and that's what that episode did this week with Mark Henry. Speaking about also, obviously, what's been in the news this week, which I thought, Patrick, it's really, really interesting because, we look at how abysmal the rating was this Wednesday for AEW Dynamite, and you would think a show that led off with an AEW eliminator match between AEW World Heavyweight Champion MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, against my man Adam Cole, baby. Not a bad match. Again, I'm a smart, so I looked at it as, okay, it was a nice match, good. I know you as a worker will have your opinion. Obviously, that went to a 30-minute draw. The rest of Dynamite was a little incoherent, and then it went full-blown incoherence on steroids during the main event. For a promotion that has Forbidden Door coming up at the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto a week from tonight. And obviously we'll get to more obviously other AEW programming on television. It just seems like, it's interesting for Marks to get all up in arms about, well, the rating this, rating that. I mean, we have to kind of come into acceptance now that MJF's run as world champion since November has not been very good for the ratings of AEW television. It has not drawn new viewers. It has not, I think, created a number that you would say, hey, MJF literally is on TV every week, if not every other week, and they're still drawing poor numbers. Whether or not that's an indictment of the rest of the storytelling, the other booking, the Elite, the BBC, it's mind-boggling to me that there's this staunch defense, almost like, hey, we're going to go down with the Titanic on this, where, well, the numbers aren't great for AEW, but Marks don't seem to mind. But they'll be the first ones to say, well, Raw wasn't good this week, or Raw is only like a 1 million something. Folks, again, it's not even apples and oranges. You're like at Whole Foods or, Seatown. Like, that's the staunch difference here.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that MJF was starting to go down in terms of being over once I saw you stop wearing that scarf. So, once you took it off, I was like, that's it. His stock is plummeting, because once Uribe gets rid of the Burberry scarf, I was like, that was it. MJF's not as over as he once was. But, yeah, I mean, it hasn't really panned out. I don't think the way that they've wanted it to. I think a lot of it has to do, again, with a lot of the issues that, they didn't implement certain structures in the foundation of the company. It's like building a house, man. You got to have a good foundation. And I just don't think that they had a good foundation there. And I think now they're trying to catch up and they're trying to put themselves in a bigger position, but it's just still too late. And I just think that there's so many people that just do not give a rat's ass about some of their quote unquote bigger stars. And again, this isn't something that we're making up here, folks. This isn't his other show. Okay. Right. Uribe, we actually talk facts on here. Okay. And
my traffic's pretty good. I mean, all things considering, being a nobody, but that's
what's that?
For being a nobody, according to some journalists in New Jersey, my traffic's pretty good. So I must be doing something right.
You're not going to say that thing tomorrow. I know you're not going to say that thing tomorrow. You're not going to do. You know what? You wouldn't dare. You wouldn't dare. Okay.
Look, after the whole we'll see.
You wouldn't dare. But anyways, regardless of that, this is stuff that you could look up, folks. Okay. You could look these numbers up. It starts out usually hot for whatever segment, or there's one segment that'll typically feature Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy's over, people. You don't have to like it, but it's true. The guy's over. People like his thing. But he's a character. He's a character. He's a character. Nobody.
Character. He doesn't talk. He walks around with a book bag.
But it's
grad school at Rutgers.
But it's simple. Anybody could look at it and be like, "What the fuck's he doing? This is funny," and laugh. People will laugh because of the absurdity of the gimmick like that. You know what I'm saying? It's he sticks out. He sticks out because everybody's a really good technical wrestler and they know all these great fucking moves and the spinning toe hold of fucking Nicaragua and all this other shit. And like, okay, great. They or as our pal, our friend of the show here, Sean Masterson would say, they know Hoovy Driver 1 through 75. They knew all these fucking moves and they do all these fucking moves and nobody cares about them. Nobody cares about them. But the people that they do care about are the characters. They're the people that are over. You know what I'm saying? The people that could talk. MJF, they care about him, but his run's been a little flat. But then again, I mean, this is Tony Khan not being able to book his champions, in a good way. I mean, outside of CM Punk, all his champions have been piss poor. So, it's the situation that I think now he's trying to play catch up. He's trying to, push these big guys out there, push characters out there to try and get over. And it's just not working. It hasn't been working for a really long time. And, again, these are numbers that you could look up. The show started out hot. It had decent viewership. It was like in the 900,000 range, right? Which is like their wheelhouse. That's what they got for that opening match between the Malcolm and Alvin. And they did the match, right? And, it ended in a draw. Obviously, they're going to stretch this out and they're going to end up, getting him a title shot at a pay-per-view. And then right after that, it just took a nosedive, man. I mean, like, it was like if the Warrior, like, assumed the controls, and he just took the plane for a nosedive. and that's exactly what happened there. That's exactly what happened. And then the main event that everybody thought was going to be this really big main event, the BCC, okay, it's not the BBC. BBC means something else online, okay? And then Chris Coppinger knows what I'm talking about. But the Blackpool Combat Club, BCC, against the Hung Bucks, Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks, had an abysmal number. I mean, nobody cared about that match. And it's sad because those guys are good wrestlers in their own right, but no character. And that's the big problem. And that's the huge drop off. And that's the predicament that AEW continues to find itself in because their foundations are shit.
Speaking about predicament, obviously that leads us just 3 days later to last night, the premiere of AEW Collision on TNT. Not seen a number yet. I gotta tell you, Patrick, as I was getting ready to go out last night, I had it on and I'm looking at, obviously very different perspective from August of 2021. I mean, when you looked at either the drum flying right from the ceiling of the United Center to last night, I mean, you could tell in August of 2021, by and large, the United Center was sold out, by and large. Maybe not like every single, but it was pretty packed. Last night, you could tell conclusively that the United States was not sold out. I know you've talked about it on the show with the great page on Twitter called WrestleTix, WrestleTix. And it was interesting because I think, and I was talking to Dee, our great executive producer, off the air before recording today. I looked at that promo by CM Punk to be a little bit, tame. He's walking out with a red bag. I'm like, is this Jake Roberts? Like walking out with what's in the bag? Is it Snake? Is it Damien?
He's got a bag of seltzers. He's got some seltzers going.
Is it Lucifer? I mean, I'm trying to think of the Cobra. I don't know. He obviously walked out, and listen. I'm sure him and Tony Khan probably had a conversation, and Tom was like, listen, let's not pour gasoline on this more than it is. You want to shoot a little bit, shoot, but within reason. I think a lot of fans were expecting more out of CM Punk last night. I think the little indirect jabs, if you know the business or know who he's talking about, I think it resonated. But by and large, a bit tame. The rest of the show, I thought Andrade Idolo versus Buddy Matthews, solid match. Again, as a smart, that match was good for all intents and purposes. The women's tag match, no surprise, Sky Blue in Chicago, hometown, getting a huge pop, getting the win there. Not a surprise. Obviously, we get to the main event. People were marking out for CM FTR. I guess that's the name of their stable. They came out with the Bret Hart colors on the tights, the multi-rainbow colors on their logo, and
for Pride Month, Fernando. They wore it for Pride Month.
Yeah. They wear it in the month of June, yeah. And
it was Pride Month, Fernando. You love Pride Month.
Yeah. No, it's June. You just made the list. And I was not a fan of that match. I mean, obviously we knew FTR was gonna have to do the bulk of the work there. Obviously, as CM Punk is working his way back into a rhythm, obviously being out 10 months with a torn tricep. I wasn't, again, listen, I don't have the best body. I'm not going out there. But I would think that for coming back after 10 months, I didn't see a difference between CM Punk and Adam Cole's physique. Maybe Punk has a little more mass, but not much. And I just thought, I'm not saying no one, listen, Punk has never been the biggest guy. He's never been juiced up that I can remember, even in WWE. He's never been had this huge physique.
He's bigger than Adam Cole.
True, yes. True, that's true. That's fair.
Baby.
The match was fine. Not a surprise, obviously, that CMFTR went over, but not the. Again, I didn't know what to expect out of this match because Juice Robinson, Jay White, who I love, Joe, I think that potential showdown with Punk, some 20 years later, I think fans were interested in. Again, kind of a flat main event. If I had to give Collision a grade for its premiere, Pat, I would say C+, maybe a B, but I would say C+.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna say like a D. Is D a part of the grading spectrum, Professor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a lot of hype. I think the only good segment, honestly, was the opening segment, and even that, it was okay. It was look, he did what he had to do. He gave people something to talk about, you know. And, you know, it's like that fucking song, you know, let's give him something to talk about. So that's what he went. He gave him something to talk about, and he got it going.
Bonnie Raitt, right?
Yeah, that's Bonnie Raitt.
That's right.
And you know, I just think that it accomplished its goal in that sense. But the rest of the show to me just felt like put together stuff with no storyline, no purpose, no nothing. It's just like, oh yeah, you two guys are gonna wrestle, and that's it, and then that's it. And it's like nothing really happened there. The Andrade match with Buddy, okay, cool, you know, but like it's fucking pointless. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And then the main event, I don't know, man. I get what they're trying to do. I get the style of match that they were working. I thought Juice did a great job showing personality in that match. I think Juice is a guy that, if given the opportunity, you know, could be a good character. You know, you could see he could be a good actor. Jay, it was interesting to see him wrestle more of an old school style, more of an American style. I think he did okay. It wasn't his best outing. Joe was Joe. Joe's a pro. Obviously, you know, the buildup was going to be to him and Joe because that's going to pop that mark audience. And, you know, I thought Punk did his part well. I think FTR did their part well. They're good workers. But again, bro, it's just not the most interesting match. It just really wasn't. And it felt a little flat. And, you know, this is the big difference between, I think, WWE and AEW. And I know I said I wasn't going to really compare them, but this is just something that I kind of feel like, you know, you got to kind of say. Roman, if it was Roman and the Usos against anybody, you would see their character. Roman would let his character shine. Roman would take his time. The Usos would take their time. They would show a lot more character. I felt like realistically there was only like maybe one or two guys in that match showing character. And it just felt like a good wrestling match. And that's cool. But like, I don't know, man. It's just not enough, man. It's not enough to me to keep people interested. People want to see CM Punk talk. He's a good wrestler, but people want to see him talk. And I think he did what he had to do well enough to kind of build his confidence and keep it going. But overall, I just felt like the main event did fall a little bit flat. And I think that they took too much time trying to wrestle and to get these nice sequences of wrestling in instead of just getting the people emotionally invested. Like, yeah, they were emotionally invested because they were chanting and they were into the face team. But like, you know, give them a reason to like fucking hate these guys. Like have them be scoundrels, you know, have them do some underhanded shit in the middle of the match, get an unfair advantage, you know, all that stuff. I don't know. This is again too where the production quality of WWE really comes into play because it's agented so well. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I kind of felt like, you know, it was a D, bro. After the Punk promo, I think the show went downhill in the main event. It really wasn't all that great to me, to be quite honest.
I'll also say too, I think one of the better, I guess, a sense of relief I got was that finally an AEW show where there's no Excalibur on commentary. I thought that was probably the highlight of my night.
I didn't even notice, to be quite honest.
I think Kevin Kelly's a great commentator. I like him in New Japan. I know you're more of a New Japan aficionado, obviously, so you watch him more. But I think Nigel McGuinness being that heel color guy that, you know, to the maybe more pro face play-by-play guy, which is what Kevin Kelly is apparently attempting to convey. I thought that was a good tandem. It's being reported, obviously, that Kevin Kelly will miss some shows coming up. So, I mean, it almost makes me cringe. Like, oh, God, it might be, you know, listen, Tony Schiavone was at ringside. He did an in-ring segment. Maybe for the shows that Kevin Kelly won't be able to appear on, maybe it'll be Schiavone. I was just relieved to see.
I would think Ian Riccaboni. Ian Riccaboni, because he's more capable of being a play-by-play guy. So if I had to pick, I'd say it'd be between him and Excalibur. I would probably have
definitely. And again, Excalibur, it was just a relief not to have to deal with that idiot. I mean, for another 2 hours. So I thought that was a relief. Another highlight, if there is such a thing, from Collision last night, though, Patrick. The first two competitors were named who declared for the 2023 Owen Hart Memorial Cup Invitational Tournament. And it's Absolute Ricky Starks and certainly Powerhouse Hobbs. And interesting, Brackets have not yet been made available, but those two superstars did announce. It's interesting, last year's Cup winners, Britt Baker and Adam Cole, it just seemed like, okay, this was a nice feel-good tournament for them to win and to have a title belt, but nothing came of it. They won the tournament. Dr. Martha Hart, the widow of Owen Hart, was there during the finals to present the Cup and the individual championships. That seems to be the case. That will happen again. The finals are scheduled later on in July to take place in the hometown of the Hart family, obviously Owen Hart, Bret Hart, and the rest of the Hart family in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So it'll be interesting between now
Lance Storm. Don't forget about Lance Storm. If I could be serious for a moment.
Sure. And we'll see again who this tournament's going to benefit, who it's going to elevate. I don't know. It didn't do much to elevate the winners last year per se, but it'll be interesting. Another highlight from last night, and also too. Just as a matter of fact, after Punk's promo here, actually over just 24 hours here, Patrick, apparently Lance Archer took exception to CM Punk's promo, apparently going to Twitter and retweeting the clip of the aforementioned Punk promo, and he appeared to take umbrage with Punk's statement. Not only that, but the, quote, murder hawk monster implied that Punk has no interest in stepping into the ring with him. According on Twitter, quote, I'm not soft, but he won't fight me, and hashtag AEW won't put me in the ring with him.
Yeah!
Lance Archer did last appear in an AEW ring in March. Maybe it's gimmick. Maybe that's a good way to kind of get some interest going with Punk's return. But again, a tame show. The opening promo could have been better, but we're not privy to the conversation with him and Tony Khan. For all we know, Tony was like, listen, you might get some heat about what you said on the ESPN radio, which, again, the transcript is not yet available online. So we have to see what he said on ESPN radio. Again, just not the best way to premiere a show, especially when there's, obviously no NBA, no NHL. Thankfully, the Yankees were rained out. Nothing really else going on other than regional baseball action. And you would hope, again, I haven't seen a rating yet, but very bad start for what is supposed to be, again, maybe a shot in the arm for AEW.
Well, it might not have been a sporting event for you or some of the general viewing audience, but I was watching the Gold Cup qualifiers as Puerto Rico, El Huracán Azul, attempted to qualify for the Gold Cup, and we beat Suriname in a penalty shootout. So we're going to be taking on, I believe
it's beat Suriname in regular time. Jesus Christ.
Yo, it was a really good game, man. It was a really, really good game. And hey, man, it's not Colombia, right? Colombia would have smoked them like 5-0. So, we already know that. But, I think we're playing, I forgot, French Guyana or something like that. I don't know who the fuck we're playing. But we're playing somebody to qualify for the tournament. It'll be the first time Puerto Rico makes it. So let's go Huracán Azul. For me, some of my personal biggest takeaways from the show were the fact that Punk worked everybody. I think this shit's resolved already. I think it's water under the bridge for those guys, but they got to run with it. And I think that what they're trying to do is get this to All In so that they can do some kind of 6-man there, which is probably why they booked Ospreay versus Kenny there. Unless they do the rubber match there, and then they do Hangman in the Bucks, I see that happening. I see, FT, CMR, whatever the hell they're called. I see those guys going against the Bucks and Page, or the Bucks and Omega at some point. I see that happening, and I think it's already sorted out. The other thing, too, is Punk coming out with that title, saying that it's his until somebody pins him or submits him for it. And he also talked about his future somewhat. I think once Punk's done and once Punk loses that title, I think Punk is gone and he's going back to WWE. And I think that the talks, whether it was a brief conversation with Triple H or whatever the case might be, I think it went well enough to the point where Punk knows that once he is done fulfilling his obligations to AEW, he can go back to WWE. He can get a part-time contract, a Legends deal, whatever it is, and he can do his match with Roman Reigns. Because let's be honest, with his kind of talking, that's where he belongs. And he will be agented very, very well, and the matches will be really good, and the content will be amazing, and he'll be having great segments with Roman Reigns. So, ew, man, come on, man, why you gotta be perverted for, bro?
Well, it's Pride Month, I mean, it's fine.
What is that supposed to mean? People celebrate Pride Month are perverts. Is that what you're trying to say?
Just the visual. So.
All right. Well, anyways, the point is that Punk belongs in WWE, and I think ultimately, based on what he said and what he said about fulfilling his obligations as champion, I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to end up there at some point. But because I mean, if he wasn't, he would have said something disparaging about WWE.
Sure.
And that shit's super over with that fucking crowd anyway. So,
Pat, let me just pick I'm sorry, I'll cut you off. I'll let you finish though, but let me just pick your brain on this real quick because it's my understanding after doing some research on this that he did sign a 3-year deal in I believe in that summer of 2021, which subsequently would take him until next summer. But again, you're a worker, so you would know these tangible dynamics. Based on the time that he missed, wouldn't that time be added?
Yeah.
So eventually, he'd be under contract until 2025.
Yeah. Okay. More than likely, that's what he's going to do. Or maybe him and Tony Khan worked out a different arrangement. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what was said. We don't know what was done. There's a lot of conversations. Again, we're not privy to. I will say this much, though. I think that he would be foolish not to go back for one more run and pick up that bag because the bag will be huge. More importantly, he will be working with the biggest name in the fucking business. And I think that is where he belongs. I get what he's doing. I get that he's trying to write out his deal. I get that, he likes the indie spirit of it all and they could use all that great ROH footage, but like he sees what's going on. He sees the writing on the wall. He's not oblivious. He's highly intelligent. And he understands that Tony Khan is comfortable catering to his core mark audience.
Yeah.
He's not trying to grow it to the levels of WWE, even though he has talent that is on par. He does. He has pieces there that are on par with the talent there. But I just think that he's comfortable staying in that wheelhouse of appealing to his marks. And then he'll do his big shows every now and again. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But at some point, you got to think Punk's going to end up back in the E.
Absolutely. And obviously it remains to be seen with the time remaining on his deal, what will happen. I think to your point, it would really suit him. I think that he's hit his ceiling in AEW. There's a lot more money to be made in WWE. Obviously, the t-shirts, potential opponents like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and many others. Pat, quick preview here for Forbidden Door a week from tonight. I got to tell you, man, obviously last year's pay-per-view was approximately 6 hours. It emanated from Chicago, the United States. Obviously, this year will be from the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Interesting, though. Like, I get it. You're putting a lot of eggs into your basket to promote Collision. It seems like Tony Khan's like multitasking here like crazy. But this card looks, I mean, it's a good card. But the problem is that, I mean, I'm looking at, it's a week away. And you know how Tony Khan doesn't do vignettes, doesn't do a lot of previews per se. But this is the card so far. Again, nice card. MJF will be taking on Hiroshi Tanahashi for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, which to me is just kind of weird because, again, Jungle Boy is going to be facing, I believe, Sonata will be defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Jungle Boy Jack Perry. We'll have Kazuchika Okada against Bryan Danielson in ultimately the dream match for quite some time. Kenny Omega will defend the coveted IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship.
Hold on a second. Why is the United States title coveted, but the IWGP title isn't coveted? Because it has a more prestigious history. That's all I'm just saying.
They're both coveted, no question. That was just a misspeak. This fucking guy. Will Ospreay will attempt to even their series, I guess, since he did lose in January at Wrestle Kingdom. It's interesting because I would think that if the purpose of Forbidden Door is to sort of do an intra-promotional pay-per-view and I get it. Listen, obviously having Tanahashi against having Sonata against MGF champion versus champion, who knows? For all we know, we're not privy to those conversations. Maybe the New Japan booker and Tony Khan couldn't agree to it. Maybe it's like, hey, listen, I don't want my guy, losing to your guy. Who knows? I mean, I don't know what the conversations are like, but kind of a thin card. You would think maybe the tag champions would be facing FTR. Now, again, I'm not familiar with them, but it's Bishamon Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi, the current IWGP Tag Team Champions. You would think that, hey, let's have them against FTR. Let's have the other titles or other champions maybe facing each other. It's Tony Khan multitasking way too much. And what you would think is a good pay-per-view, right? Because Forbidden Door, you want to showcase New Japan talent, give them, a North American audience. Again, the card already looks nice. It could be better, but with a week to go, no vignettes, no hype. I was surprised Ospreay showed up at Dynamite to kind of, fuel the fire a little bit about what the potential match will be next week. But again, I don't have any faith in this card being, at least last year's, whether you liked it or not, and it was long, it was about 6 hours. You had a lot of the interpromotional matches, which I think this is what the perfect pay-per-view serves. But I don't know, not really. I mean, again, there's great matches so far, but I'm not entirely excited about it, Patrick, if that makes sense.
Sure, I feel like the buzz is a little flat outside of the two major matches involved. I mean, look, I'm not one to really nitpick this shit. They'll probably put together most of it, this week on TV. We'll see what happens between now and then. But I will say, and this was said last night on Collision, MJF said that he's going to no-show Forbidden Door. And what I think they're going to end up doing is they're going to have the match that they couldn't have last year. And it's going to be Punk coming out with the AEW title, taking MJF's place to take on Tanahashi. Because I think for that audience, for that mark audience, I think that's a better matchup. Now, as presently constituted, I would say MJF is more physically capable of having a better match with Tanahashi because he's in better physical shape.
Yeah.
However, CM Punk has great psychology. Tanahashi's an old pro. They'll figure out something that'll be great. And that's what I think is going to end up being the match. More importantly, it puts a lot more heat on Punk, on MJF, especially with that AEW mark audience. Hopefully we see Okada this week and Danielson have some kind of face-off, something going on. Because again, this all goes back to AEW's major problem, which is they don't know how to promote these potential dream matches to a mainstream audience. There's a lot of people out there that I'm sure would give a fuck about Okada if they knew who he was. The problem with AEW, to your point, is, they don't do a lot of vignettes. They don't have a lot of video packages. They don't do any of this stuff. They don't have any recaps. They don't do these types of things because, that's the bad stuff WWE does, which make of that whatever you will. But it suits them in these cases, especially when you have a guy like Okada that if a casual saw, they'd be like, damn, this guy's a really great wrestler. I want to see what he's going to do. Oh, he's taking on Daniel Bryan. Gee, I'd love to watch this matchup. Let's see how good this is going to be. And I'll guarantee you right now, it's going to be the match of the night. No doubt in my mind. It's going to be the match of the night.
I agree.
But the buzz, I'm with you. The buzz on this show is it's flat. It's flat compared.
Again, I like Jungle Boy against.
I don't like it. I don't like that match because you know what? To be quite honest, you look at Sonata and you look at Jungle Boy.
Sure.
It's not there, man. Why isn't Jungle Boy taking on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion?
I was just about to say, I don't know who that is. I mean, obviously, I know you.
I don't know who that is either. So yeah. D, can we look that up? Can we find out who the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion is? That guy would be a better choice for Jungle Boy to have a matchup with.
Yeah, because it's not believable. You look at Jungle, and I get maybe Tony Khan's trying to elevate Jungle Boy. Good for him. Yeah. But it's not believable. Like you look at that guy, it's almost like
Miro versus Sonata. Okay. Sign me up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anybody from House of Black against Sonata. Okay, let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But again, Jungle Boy,
and again, get the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion involved in the show. Get the tag champions. I mean, it just seems like, and it goes back to the premise of like Tony Khan's just doing too much. He's booking Ring of Honor. He's booking AEW. He's trying to book Collision.
Actually, he stopped booking Ring of Honor.
My bad.
He actually gave that up. Now it's Jerry Lynn, I believe, and Prince Nana. So those are the people that are booking it.
It just seems like it's almost a bottleneck of things that Khan is trying to get accomplished in this short window now during the summer. Again, the premiere Collision last night. Obviously, Collision will be a permanent show on Saturdays, notwithstanding certain dates. Like, for example, in, I think, 2 weeks, when Money in the Bank emanates from London, England on that Saturday, there will be no money, obviously no AEW Collision. Certainly later on in August, when SummerSlam takes place from Ford Field in Detroit, that will also not be another show for Collision. They did announce a few more dates coming up in late July into August. Well, they'll be in the Carolinas. They're going to be in Greensboro. They're going to be in Charlotte and Greenville.
Horseman country. They're going to be in Horseman country.
Woo!
Horseman country.
Woo! I mean, it's weird because you would think that with the relationship you have with New Japan, you would be vignetting this on steroids, and rightfully so. And say what you want, because a lot of marks don't like the fact that, WWE just does way too many vignettes. You need that illustration.
Sure.
Because the only way you're going to get casuals to be somewhat interested is to provide vignettes. I mean, listen, let's be fair. There's a lot of fucking lazy people out there. Even using Google is too laborious for them. So sometimes you almost have to kind of make this as simplistic as possible and present the visual and present the vignettes. I mean, folks, Okada is one of the most talented pro wrestlers on the planet. The idea that there isn't a weekly vignette on Okada and Danielson, like a tale of the tape, a history of Okada, a history of Danielson to some extent. Like, look at me. I'm a smart. I have no tangible experience in the pro wrestling business on booking or production. And look what I just did in 15 seconds.
Acknowledge me.
It's infuriating to me.
I agree with what you're saying, but I just think that this kind of leans more into the narrative that Tony is tailoring this product to smart marks. I mean, look, yeah, you could use Google, but some people don't want to fucking use Google. Some people probably use Google all day at work and they want to just tune on wrestling, tune into wrestling and watch, mindless nonsense. I get it. I understand. We all have the stuff that we like to watch in our free time.
Sure.
I don't want to have to go and do fucking research to have to watch a program. Okay. I'm not putting together a fucking paper on it. Okay. I just want to tune in and I want to watch. So have those vignettes ready for me.
Yep.
You missed Monday Night Raw this week. You watch SmackDown. You're going to see a recap of the shit that happens on fucking Raw. You know what I mean? So you don't have to watch it.
Important because
that's absolutely important.
That keeps the audience engaged. And again, in the short attention society, short attention span society we live in, like that's pragmatic. Like that's beneficial for an audience. And I just think that for a show like this in the middle of the year, and again, there isn't another pay-per-view until late August. That's Sunday for All In. And then the following Sunday, Labor Day weekend in Chicago for All Out, which again, it boggles my mind who thinks it's a good idea to do that, but whatever.
What, All In and All Out?
Yeah, like unless you're doing like a package of, hey, buy both pay-per-views for like $40. But if he's charging $49.95 for each, like, I'm sorry, man. Like,
well, what if you're just feeling all in, but you're not really feeling all out? Or what if you're just feeling all out, but you're not really feeling all in? You know what I mean? I think it's just subject to the individual. That's all. It's a bit of the old in out, So,
but like, again, don't even get me started on like that. That just seems like not very fan friendly for someone like Tony Khan, who's trying to be good to the fans. That's not being good to the fans. I'm sorry.
I think it's going to end up being on Max. That's what I think. I think they're either going to put one of them or both of them on there, which makes perfect sense. I mean, look, if you're trying to promote this stadium show as a big show, and supposedly they're saying that it's like now 65,000, although from what's been reported by Billy Body, and again, most reliable guy out there, folks, he has family who has a pub within the vicinity of Wembley Stadium. They're saying that this is an event that they predict to draw about 40 to 45,000 people, which, hey, tip of the cap to fucking AEW, right? You didn't think that was something that they could pull off, and that's something that they're probably going to do. But to lie about these numbers, to make it look bigger than what it fucking is, come on. I just think it would benefit them to be on Max, where people wouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg just to watch it.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree. And it's interesting because, I mean, we'll see what the show, we'll see what the show's producing. But again, it just seems like a bottleneck between now and August to squeeze all this stuff in, all this content, plus Dynamite trying to make sense of what's going on with booking. But speaking of making sense of booking, folks, our main event topic this week, obviously, yours truly, the academic, Dr. Fernando Uribe, and Patrick Rivera, the premier wrestling analyst. I think we're going to perform a public service this week, and we are going to be clinicians to the best of our ability without any clinical qualifications. And I think it's time for some mark intervention, folks. And I think that, listen, we're going to be gracious out of our hearts to talk to you, the Mark audience that enjoys pro wrestling in general, whether it's AEW, whether it's WWE, whether it's Impact Wrestling, 20 years strong and counting, whether it's MLW, New Japan Pro Wrestling, whether it is Ring of Honor, a plethora of other promotions that pro wrestling fans like. And unfortunately, folks, and I'll let Pat start off with this. I know he has a lot to say on it, and I'll just piggyback off of Pat on this. But Patrick, market intervention is important because I think that wrestling fans, and this is now not even a generational disconnect. This is now a problem that has been, I think, perpetual for almost half a century. About you like what you like, or you don't like who's getting pushed, or you don't, and it gets overly emotional for you. And I think that now that is what's leaking into social media, which is I would say, the abyss of toxicity, pro wrestling social media, the internet as well. A lot of these fan meet and greet conventions as well. I just think, dude, that as far as I'm concerned, I really want to pick your brain on this, that Marks need intervention here. You need to sort of sit down and look in the mirror and be like, I like wrestling, but am I letting my fandom or the excessive fandom overrule basic common sense or even understanding business? Like, you don't need an MBA from Rutgers Business School, which is one of the top 10 ranked in the country, or even a degree in economics to understand like what good business is. And I just think Marks struggle with looking in the mirror, Patrick. I'll give you the floor.
Well, thank you for the intro there, sir. But I will say this much. I think that Marks really need to understand that it is the wrestling business. Okay. It's not a legitimate, prestigious shoot fighting company where, you know, the guy that puts in the most work earns the championship and all that. No, that's not what it is. There's a lot of people that work very hard in all wrestling companies. There's a lot of people that are fantastic workers, next level workers. And not all of those people get to shine and be main eventers or top draws because they don't have the character ability to be that. You have to understand first and foremost that it's a business. And they're going to make decisions in the best interest of this business to serve the boys and the girls that are part of the company. Let's start with the 80s, right? Hulk Hogan was the champion. Now, I know you and I, we've talked about this to death, okay? About how some people would say that DiBiase deserved to be champion. Rick Rude could have been champion. Jake could have been champion. Mr. Perfect could have been champion. All these guys could have been champion. Paul Orndorff. I mean, the list goes on and on, right?
Bundy. Piper.
So many guys, right? The list goes on and on. And the number of wrestlers in the 80s that could have gotten the title. That could have been the guy, right? But who was the guy? Hulk Hogan. Okay. Hulk Hogan was the guy because Hulk Hogan was always training. Hulk Hogan looked the part. Hulk Hogan connected with the audience. Okay. And you don't have to like the guy. You can hate the guy. Okay. But we're speaking objectively. I don't hate the guy. I dislike some things that he said.
Sure.
Okay. I dislike some of the things that he's done, but whatever. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this guy's the fucking Babe Ruth of fucking wrestling. Okay. He's the fucking man. And he's the reason why we still even have a fucking business to talk about. He's one of the big parts of that. Him and Vince McMahon. Now imagine you're Vince McMahon back in the 80s and you're listening to what some fucking booger-eating Mark's saying at the Garden. Oh, you should really put the title on Jake. Okay, you put the title on Jake. Now, we all have seen the documentaries, okay? And it's unfortunate what happened to Jake Roberts. It's unfortunate that addiction has ruined so many lives, okay? Trust me when I tell you this. It's awful. Addiction is awful, okay? You don't need to be a fucking rocket scientist to know this. But imagine they would have put the title on Jake in the midst of all his addiction. He wouldn't have been reliable. He wouldn't have been dependable, okay? He probably would have missed a ton of bookings. And then you would have been put in a situation where you have your top star no showing events. He would have been erratic. That would have hurt the business a lot, okay? And we wouldn't have had a wrestling business much longer after that. There's a reason why so many guys have been passed up, okay? And you can apply it to now as well. But there's a reason why certain guys are passed up and why one particular guy gets to keep that championship because of what they are willing to do.
God, I'm sorry.
Okay?
That comment was gold.
What was it? I didn't see.
They would have sold the belt for a bag.
Wow, Jesus.
That's great.
That's yeah.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus.
That's in that sad but true department there. But I mean, it would have been awful. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that so many marks get very, very passionate about the people that they want to be champions. I mean, we were just talking about LA Knight, right? Everybody feels like, oh, LA Knight's being wasted and this. And I mean, you know, he's not the fucking Thanksgiving turkey that's in the fridge that's left over. Okay. He's not going to go rotten. Okay. He's working for the biggest wrestling company in the fucking world. He's featured prominently on TV and he's over. Okay. He's talented and everybody knows that. There's tons of people that can sign off on this shit. Okay. Sure. He wouldn't be where he is if he wasn't. You can trust and believe that they're going to use him the way they see fit. Cody Rhodes, another guy. Oh, they should have put the title on Cody. They missed the opportunity. They ruined it. This would have been the best payoff. Oh, my God. Why does Roman have the title? ¿Por qué? Right? All this stuff. But at the end of the day, Roman Reigns is keeping the views, keeping the interest. Houses are going up. You look at the numbers and take a look at it on WrestleTix if you don't believe me here, folks. The numbers from last year for the house shows, they're up. They're up like 2,000 people, okay? You look at the attendance for Monday Night Raw. You look at the attendance for SmackDown. Those numbers are going up. The ratings are going up. People are more interested. Why? Because Roman Reigns is on top. Because Roman Reigns is the guy. Because people are filling up stadiums to see Roman Reigns and the Bloodline in those matches and in those main events, okay? If you didn't have him in that spot, then not everybody would be benefiting from that, okay? And you people all would have gotten fickle with Cody as champion. And you can say, no, we wouldn't have. We would have loved Cody as champion. It would have been the best thing in the world. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on that, okay? Because how many times have guys won the title that you wanted to win the fucking title and the thing went south? The thing went south. And then you all lost interest and you all became fickle with them, okay? Roman Reigns, the Bloodline, they're the best thing going in the business. At the end of the day, folks, you can be passionate about the fans, about the wrestlers that you want to be passionate about, okay? We all love the wrestlers that we love. We all have an emotional connection with them. That's what got us into the business to begin with, okay? Somebody that we saw, that we kind of saw ourselves in, and we gravitated towards them. But you eventually get to a point as you start to get older where you realize, hey, this isn't what I think this is. This is a fucking work. And it's a business. And it's an entertainment business, okay? Imagine they would have killed Tony Soprano on the first fucking episode of The Sopranos. Imagine that. Imagine what would have fucking happened. That would have sucked, right?
No, absolutely.
It would have been awful. You know what I'm saying? You need to realize and you need to make the distinction that it is a business. And sometimes the guy that you like or the girl that you like or the wrestler that you, the talent that you become emotionally attached to, they might not rise up to the top of the card. And it might not be because they don't have the talent. It might be some other variables that we don't know about.
Yeah.
But it's a business, and they're going to do what they're going to do in the interest of business to keep it going, to keep people paid, and to keep putting asses in the seats.
Yeah. Listen, and just to piggyback off what you said about the 80s, I mean, I'll just sort of move on to the 90s. I mean, there was an element there where the business was slow. And obviously we had the steroid trials. We had the controversy surrounding Vince McMahon. We had obviously the end of Hulk Hogan in WWF. Obviously, Macho Man was coming to a close as well. Vince was making this decision to start going with smaller guys as their marquee guys, from Bret Hart to Shawn Michaels.
Did you say smaller guys as their marquee guys or as their marquee guys?
Marquee guys.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just checking. That's all.
Marquee guys. And obviously you saw a change, I think, in the presentation of who Vince was going to push. And case in point, obviously there was no social media. The internet was still really in its infancy. Okay. But what were we hearing as 1993, 1994 was materializing? Well, you know, the two top guys that Vince has to choose from are Bret Hart and Lex Luger, right? And what was the chatter? Oh, Lex needs a run with the belt. Lex, after everything they did with the Lex Express in the summer of '93, Lex should have the title. Folks, again, all you have to do is go on YouTube, okay? Just look up Lex Luger walking out with the WWF title during a Superstars of Wrestling or Wrestling Challenge taping. And that was, I guess, at the time. Again, folks, this is way before social media and anything else. This is Vince trying to get the pulse of a house show crowd as to how they would react to Lex Luger as the WWF champion, when at the time Yokozuna, God rest his soul, was as hot a heel as you could ever remember in the business. And Vince looked at that and said, you know what? Yeah, some fans want Lex Luger. Yeah, the shirts are selling. Lex Express, made in the USA, Lex Luger, But Vince looked at it and said, hey, you know what? Brett's the more dependable guy. It seems like this is a guy that's going to draw more than Luger. And sure enough, come WrestleMania 10 in Madison Square Garden, it wasn't Lex Luger being hoisted up on the shoulders of everybody. It was Bret Hart. And then as you moved on into the 90s, obviously you saw the birth of Stone Cold Steve Austin. You saw what happened with him and Vince in that iconic, storyline of Austin versus McMahon, which again, I would argue that next to the bloodline and next to, the birth and the dissolving of the Mega Powers and the NWO, those are probably the top storylines in the history of pro wrestling. But Austin versus McMahon for a period of 2.5 years was as hot as anything you ever saw. And yeah, sure, people might have had their favorites and say, well, Triple H was up and coming. You had other stars, Val Venus. You had guys in the Nation. Yeah, they did that. They saw the greatness in Dwayne Johnson. They were pushing The Rock. They were pushing, some guys, but they knew like, okay, D'Lo Brown's ceiling's going to be here. Mark Henry's going to be here. The New Age Outlaws were going to be here. Sean Waltman. I mean, again, the idea that Mark would say, well, the title didn't always have to be on Austin, but Austin was an anomaly. There was a period between the end of 1998, basically the fall, between losing the title to Kane and The Undertaker, and that entire fall and winter, okay, losing the title, having to fight Undertaker at rock bottom in a Buried Alive match to qualify for the Rumble, and then he was forced to draw number 1 in the Rumble, and then lost the Rumble match, and then he had to put up his title match against Vince at St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and then finally 7 months later he got the win against Rock and got the title back. That's an anomaly because Austin didn't lose any heat. Austin was as hot as anybody in the business. But the idea that, hey, you can't replicate that all the time, that's true. And I think Mark's trying to get into the, well, this guy should have gotten the belt longer. And look what happened in 2000. Again, and let's move on to the 2000s. Chris Jericho had ultimately the single best night in the history of pro wrestling in maybe 10 years at that point by defeating Austin and Rock. He was the undisputed champion. But what did Vince see between Triple H returning in January at the Garden, and then the Rumble, and then Triple H in the program leading up to Mania? Could he have easily kept the title on Jericho? Sure. Oh, because the Marks thought Jericho deserved it. I don't disagree. I love Jericho in 2002. But what was the smarter business move? You had to put it on Triple H. And also, too, Hogan was coming back. You knew where that was going. So, again, there's sequences that Marks get really worked up about. Right? About, well, the title should be on this person. The title should be on that person. Let's move on into the late 2000s, mid to late 2000s, into the 2010s. What do we hear all the time? Oh, God, Cena's always got the belt. Oh, look, Mark Henry retired. Then he unretired. And he should have challenged Cena, and he should have gone over. Or Batista should have gotten a win. I mean, there's sequences in every sort of decade, I think, that Marks get worked up about, where the title should have been on this person. I don't like John Cena. I never liked the character. I never bought one single shirt. But you'd have to be cognitively like just dead to not understand the money that John Cena produced in shirts, in revenue, in ratings, all the Make-A-Wish stuff. I mean, hey, it wasn't for me, but John Cena made Vince money. Money you cannot recuperate if you decide to say, well, you know what, instead of John Cena, I'm going to put the belt on Shawn Michaels. Not that Shawn Michaels wouldn't have been a great champion in 2007, but we knew that Cena was the golden goose. And I just think that fans get, whether it was Hogan to Austin to Triple H, right, that little period, to then Cena, like, listen, you don't have to like it, to quote the great PVR. You don't have to like it, but the gate is there. The tangible data is there that money was made, shirts were made. And again, listen, you don't have to like it. I think we all have our fandom, But you don't need an MBA from Rutgers to understand that business works this way, not the way you think it should work. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely, you're right about that. And I'm also willing to bet that frat boy Fernando was a fan of John Cena. You know, they shared a certain stylistic integrity. But you know, even though this Fernando doesn't like him, this incarnation of Fernando. But I just think that, you know, you look at all these guys, you take a look at all.
Hold on, put that back up there. That was a great. Oh.
Is he? I don't know. I don't know if he is. I don't know if he is.
He was white Tunnelly Avenue guy that loved hip hop.
I'm gonna say Larry Bird is probably better, but that's just my personal.
He was that white guy that loved hip hop and made a point to be down.
What about MC Search? Is he like, could he be considered one of them? You know, from third base, but I don't know. Anyways, you know, you look at what happened and what went on in those transitional periods from one top guy to another guy. You know, obviously, when they were in the middle of the Austin heyday, you know, Austin was selling out stadiums and stuff like that. And then after Austin and Rocky left, that's when they kind of started to like go down a little bit, and you started seeing them kind of putting WrestleMania back in arenas and stuff like that. Cena was really the first big top guy to get them back into that stadium status again.
Yeah.
And, you know, you know, you don't need data to really even understand that. You just look at it. Look at those WrestleManias in between, you know, 2003, I'd say, until about maybe 2007, right? 2006, 2007.
2004, it was at the Garden. 2005 was at Staples Center in LA. And 2006 was, I believe, the not United Center, the other
the Rosemont Horizon. It was the Rosemont Horizon.
Oh yeah.
So
other than that, it's been stadiums ever since.
But their next big stadium show was Ford Field, if I recall correctly. And I believe
it
was Shawn and Cena, right?
From 07 to the present, it's been stadiums.
Right. Okay, so that's a big part of that has to do with John Cena. John Cena is the one who got them to that point.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people could argue and say, and look, I mean, I wasn't always a fan either, but I understood his purpose. I understood what he was doing. Edge was one of those few guys that you could stick in there to take the title from, because Edge was a really good villain. Randy, you know, obviously, you know, later on CM Punk was kind of like the Roddy Piper to his Hogan, you know, but because you had John Cena at the top of the card, you know, you were able to continue to have these big shows at the stadium. You were able to continue to have mainstream interest. He was able to make movies. He was able to do all this stuff. And everybody else felt that it was trickling down. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people get their knickers in a twist about once in a lifetime. You know, the first once in a lifetime. The one that happened in Miami at WrestleMania 28, right? Oh, this is bullshit. CM Punk should main event. He's the champion. Okay, well, CM Punk was wrestling in a stadium. And you know why? That was because John Cena's at the top of the card with The Rock. Okay? That's why. You don't have to like it, but that's the truth.
I mean,
that's the truth.
I mean, to your point, I mean, it was in Miami, Rock's hometown. I mean, the idea that it should have been Jericho and Punk to close out the show because it was a WWE.
It's silly. But that's how Mark would book it. That's how fucking Mark would book it.
That doesn't make sense. And again, if you remember the following year, which arguably one of the worst WrestleManias I can remember in the 39-year history of it, like, what was some of the complaints? Well, you know, why did you take the belt off of Punk after this historic run to put it on The Rock, who rarely defended it? Okay, well, Rock Cena 2, which was abysmal, needed that.
It was not that bad. It was not that.
It was nowhere near the first one. I get it, injuries, but the premise of that match needed the title as a dynamic. Sure, Punk. It should, you know, a lot of marks are saying, hey, it should have been Punk versus Taker for streak versus title.
Sure.
Again, and I don't think it would have been a bad main event, but I understand that it had to be Cena Rock in that stadium, which again was just abysmal to watch.
And the symbolism of Cena getting the title back from Rocky, you know what I mean? The symbolism of him getting the win, but also winning the title. So it was like 2 wins for the price of 1. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't think they were ever really going to get to a rubber match. I mean,
thank God. Thank God.
You know, so
that would have been, oh God. I'm happy that never happened.
Yeah, but it would have drawn house though, dude, and you would have watched it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. So for all the
I would've
things that
watched
Marks
it
complain
based on
about,
mine, so I didn't have to sit through that thing again like I did in 2013.
but you still would have watched it. You still would have talked about it. At the end of the day, people are paying attention to it, and that's the end game for wrestling. That's the end game for wrestling. People can say, "Oh, this guy being the champion, Roman, it's bullshit. He's not on TV. He's not defending the title. All this stuff." You're talking about him.
Yeah.
You're talking about him. You're talking about him. That's what they want you to do, man. That's like rule number 1 in wrestling, man. If nobody's paying attention to you, bro, that's bad.
No.
If people are talking bad about you, they're talking good about you. They're talking about you, and that's what fucking matters at the end of the day.
I agree, and I think it's important that Marks just have this intervention, and I hope that we were instructional today and we were beneficial to you, because I think a lot of Marks struggle with looking in the mirror. I mean, for obvious reasons, because a lot of them are hideous to look at. They're not handsome. They're not handsome like you know. But
Sure.
I think it's important to, again, have that come to Jesus moment, or Buddha or Allah or whoever, and just kind of look at wrestling, I think, in a healthier perspective. I think it would help a lot. Now, again, some guys and girls are at a certain age where they're past any rational discussion or objective examination of pro wrestling as a recreational hobby. But I think that, again, if you watch tonight, I think hopefully we were very instructive in helping you at least appreciate pro wrestling. Because, folks, it's pro wrestling. It's something we enjoy. Just like people enjoy the Kardashians for some godforsaken, unknown reason that I can, equate to any intellect. People like pro wrestling. You like what you like, but understand what it is. Just like the Kardashians are a business. They're a brand. You don't have to like it, but they're a brand. It's a business. Why can't you equate that same level of, cognitive breakdown when it comes to pro wrestling? That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with you, Prof. And I think that at the end of the day, you got to understand that it's a business, man. Okay? You got to understand that it's a business, and they're going to do what is best for that business, what is going to get everybody paid. Not just Roman, man. Not just Roman. People are there to see Roman. No doubt they're there to see the bloodline. Okay? But at the end of the day, it trickles down to everybody else, and everybody else is on a big card with a big talent. So they're going to get seen, and there's potential for them to get over big too. I mean, that's just how we've even gotten to this point. Brock Lesnar wasn't always a fucking main event talent, but he started somewhere. He was on cards with main event talents. And now look at him. He's arguably the second biggest name in the business. I would say it's probably Roman, him. And you know what? I'm going to say CM Punk. I mean, and when I say Roman, I include the entire bloodline because they're main eventing big programs, man. They're main eventing big programs. I mean, you look at the last few PLE main events, the bloodline's involved. And this is what we're going on 3 years now. I mean, this is Jay. Jay was main eventing PLEs during the pandemic era, So, I mean,
that's right.
I just hope that you people understand that it's a fucking business, okay? You're getting worked. You're talking about it, and that's what they want. That's what they want. And if the guy that you like or the girl that you like or the talent that you're attached to is as good as you think they are, the cream will always rise to the top.
That's right. And if it's not Vince McMahon or Paul Levesque here on this show, we're also working the marks too.
I like that.
You like that, right? All right.
I like that. You know what? I'm gonna pop for that one. I'm gonna pop for that one.
Before we call it a night here on this day in pro wrestling history on June the 18th, very interesting one here. In 2001, on an episode of Monday Night Raw from Tampa, Florida, a masked man came out riding a motorcycle to the Undertaker's music. He got into the ring, took off his mask, and he was revealed as the stalker of the Undertaker's then wife, Sarah Calloway, and he was revealed to be Diamond Dallas Page. One of the more historic moments during that transition period after WCW was sold to WWF at the time. And obviously we saw that not the best invasion angle that we would have liked, but certainly the beginning of the invasion angle back there in 2001. Also on this day in pro wrestling history, as well, in 2005, CM Punk defeated Austin Aries in the main event of Death Before Dishonor 3 in Morristown, New Jersey. Wow. That's a venue out there at the sports arena out there in Morristown. Good building, by the way. Also on this day, in pro wrestling history, we did see from the Kiel Center in St. Louis, the 2017 Money in the Bank pay-per-view, where Carmella won the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. and subsequently would be cashing in shortly thereafter. And also, too, folks, we did see Baron Corbin, in one of the few guys that has failed to cash in, win the Money in the Bank contract during that as well, folks. And, just some really good stuff going on this day, June the 18th, in pro wrestling history. Pat, close us out here.
Well, just thanks for having me. And yeah, folks, we really hope that you're enjoying what we're doing here. We're going to be bringing back the question segment on our Instagram stories coming up this next week. And just, drop us a line, drop us some comments. If you hate us, if you love us, whatever you want to say, folks, shoot us a DM, whether it's on Instagram, on Facebook, anywhere you can find us. Please feel free. We appreciate the interaction. We appreciate the support. You love us. You hate us. You keep watching us. It's great. We enjoy this dialogue. We enjoy having this open discourse with the audience, folks. We should be doing some Q&A section sometime soon, right? I think that would be great for the program. Maybe let's think about it in the future. I don't know. Maybe if we get a little bit more money or something. I don't know. We get a sponsorship deal with like Materva or something, or Noches de Colombia, the McDonald's of Berkeley. Cortaditos, definitely.
That'd be nice, cortaditos.
We could get some interns. Yeah, we could get some Work in the Marks interns here too. That would be great.
I would not mind that at all.
But like I said, folks, keep watching, keep tuning in. We enjoy the dialogue. We enjoy it, talking with you here about wrestling, and keep on checking us out. Give us some suggestions. We probably won't listen to them, but we want the interaction. So just keep on coming back. And I know for a fact you're not going to say that thing tomorrow. I know you're not going to say that thing tomorrow. I got to get out of here. You wouldn't dare. So
all right, we'll see.
We'll see what happens, folks. But it's been a pleasure always being with you here. Don't drop me any DMs. I'm not into pyramid schemes. And keep on keeping on. Life's a garden. Dig it?
That's right. Folks, there, again, special thank you to Patrick Rivera, my amazing co-host here on Working the Marks. And folks, tomorrow night, State Assembly candidate Lisa Fabrizio from the 22nd Legislative District will be my guest tomorrow on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. Again, check it out at jerseyfirst.org/TV. Also on the Jersey First YouTube page. And I have a lot to say as well, folks, about some stuff that doesn't sit well with me in the city of Hoboken. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot to say about that. So tune in tomorrow night, folks, on Facebook Live via StreamYard, and certainly, of course, on the Jersey First YouTube page. Folks, again, I want to thank our amazing executive producer, Dee Rotten, for bringing everything you see every single week here on the show, and, of course, Famcast Media for being loyal supporters of the program. I can't say enough how much we love our audience and for tuning in every single week here on Facebook Live via streaming, and also on the Working the Marks YouTube page as well. Folks, he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, the PBR superstar, Patrick Vincent Rivera. Of course, I am New Jersey's premier journalist and the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, Fernando Uribe, saying, hey, if you can't be good, be bad, baby. We'll see you next week here, folks, on a special Sunday night edition of Working the Marks, as we'll preview Forbidden Door on pay-per-view next week. Folks, have a great rest of your day. Happy Father's Day. Love you all. God bless. Please party responsibly. And we'll see you next time here on Famcast Media.
Famcast Media. Bitch.